Hello, and welcome to the start of this week's vlog, and today's reading Dippit, woohoo! Alright, so I've just finished reading Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover, and it is so good! I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought it was like super cute. Now, I know like the issue with like Colleen Hoover is that I found that like a lot of books of her in their past have been kind of elements of like Stockholm Syndrome. This is one that I don't think was really like that, and I really enjoyed this one. So what it is that we have this, like, the book starts out with this girl named Kenna who's taking the effort to go into like she's just got out of jail and she's going to this small town and she wants to be like close with her daughter. And you find out that when she went to jail that she didn't know she was pregnant and she was like going into jail for murder, right? But as it turns out was that she was like driving a car while like both her and the guy Scotty were both intoxicated, and she lost control of the vehicle and it crashed. When she got out of the vehicle, that when she came to, she thought that he was dead, so she ended up like getting out of the car trying to find help, couldn't really find anything, and so she just ended up going home. So that's how she ended up in jail. And so but then when she had her daughter in jail, that Scotty's parents ended up taking her, right? So when she got back to this small town, she ends up meeting this guy named Ledger, who's like this bartender, and they end up like kind of hitting it off. Within a couple days, like, that she realizes that, or remembers that Ledger is like Scotty's like best friend, and that lives across the street from Scotty's parents and her daughter Diem. And so like they both kind of put two and two together around the same time, and Ledger is part of Diem's life and like, you know, puts her first, so he doesn't really want to have Kenna around, and so kind of like forces like her to leave. But then over time, like, they end up having like this relationship, and what happens is that kind of like very therapeutically that Kenna is writing these like letters to Scotty, and it's kind of like, you know, to be like, hey, how are you doing? Like, this is like honestly like what happened and everything. So Scotty's parents do not want to have Kenna around. Like, they have a restraining order, and they think it's like in the best interest of having just to not have her around, especially Diem, and so that way they know that she doesn't exist. And yeah, but then Ledger finds the one letter where she actually explains like what happened from her perspective, and ends up giving it to Scotty's parents. They end up reading it. His mom, Grace, ends up coming over to meet with Kenna and like embraces her, and then she allows Kenna to come meet Diem. Diem's 4, almost 5 at this point, and she literally just kind of, you know, kids are resilient, and kind of is like, yeah, like, I'm your mom, and she's like, okay, whatever. And so the book kind of ends like really just with her, what is it, Kenna is now living with, oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? And I just said it 2 minutes ago too. Oh my gosh, Ledger. So she's living with Ledger, and Kenna is staying with them like two nights a week, and Ledger and Kenna end up having like a baby boy together, and they name him Scotty. So, you know, it's a really full circle, and just, you know, the little reminders of him and how this was like accidental, and how Ledger and Kenna can be together, and just how Kenna, you know, is like slowly building up her life after her mistakes that she has done. So I love that. Yeah, really cute. Right, just the little small reminders of him. Yeah. Alright, giving it a thumbs up. Hopefully everybody's doing alright, and we'll catch you on the next Dippit. Bye. Hello, and welcome to this reading Dippit. Woohoo! Alright, so I just finished reading First and Forever by Lynn Painter, and it's all super cute. And of course, we have two dual dualities. We have Connor and Duffy. Now, Duffy has just like moved back to her childhood home to keep tabs on her dad, as it just made sense for her to come home and like live with him versus like any of her brothers. And she kind of and then Connor is a professional football player, like in the NHL. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, for the football league, right? And I forget what team he plays for, but that doesn't matter. matter. They end up meeting and they end up going on this date, and they kind of start like Duffy's really kind of apprehensive to make Connor her boyfriend, because like he's like a professional athlete and everybody like is like kind of swooning over him all the time. And on their first date, like there is like all these cameras and everything, or like the paparazzi. When they kind of make it official, that she ends up finding out that he knew that or like their first date was kind of more or less a publicity stunt kind of a thing, and he kind of, but you know, and that there's obviously like a power dynamic because he has more money than he knows what to do with, but he is super respectful towards like her and her father, and you know, of course they get like tickets, and but he has more money than he knows what to do with, and all he wants to do is to like make her happy, like because like he doesn't need all this money, and he would rather like use it for something good, right? And if it like say like upgrading her plane ticket or something like that, right? But it's just, you know, but of course, you know, it's got to have a little romance, got to have a happy ending. And of course, like she does like forgive him, and they do have like some fun times, right? But like but the key thing is just, you know, when you're dating like a professional or like a professional like sports player that it is kind of famous, there is kind of, or just somebody that has a little bit more money than you, there is like a power dynamic. But you know, it is very much a meet cute. And of course, like there's this like kind of joke or sub story about like how there was like a viral video of Duffy getting in a fight with a mascot, but like the guy in the mascot costume was her ex-boyfriend, right? And he was like a douchebag, so he kind of deserved it. And so one of his games she did dress up as like Batman, so that was kind of funny, right? But yeah, so Lynn Painter did it again with another, you know, a really good book. I would highly recommend First and Forever. So yeah, and you know, we just gotta be excited about it, and I hope you guys enjoy Lynn Painter as a writer. So yeah, all right, that's it from me. Catch you on the next Dippit. Bye. Hello, and welcome to this reading Dippit. Woohoo! Alright, so I've just finished listening to Fever Crumb, which is part of the prequel trilogies, I guess, quote-unquote prequel trilogies series to the Mortal Engines, and it is about Fever Crumb. Now, how Fever got her name was that when a woman was pregnant with her child, they would kind of name their child like after like whatever like ailment that they had. So her mom had a fever, so she was called Fever. And so she was found in the like area of the Guild of Engineers by Mr. Crumb or Victor Crumb, and so he kind of took her in, and so there, that's how Fever got her last name Crumb. And so after being in, so Mr. Crumb's kind of like her father figure to her, so she ends up you know, going on this adventure to leave the Guild of Engineers to kind of, you know, see what the world is like, right? And so part of the guild is that you always have to have like a shaved head because you can't be bothered by hair, right? So she goes into like London, the city of London, to see what's what, see what's there, and to see what's going on. And she ends up going on this like really ridiculous like adventure and meeting people like on the way, like Kit and like the stalkers. You get to know like how like the stalkers are like really, or, like the Night Stalkers are actually like made, and how like they are soldiers in the Lazarus Brigade. So it's just kind of like really interesting, like how like she sees them going off, and how like there's like one that seems to be not like the others, that still kind of remembers like their old life, which I'm thinking that is the one in Mortal Engines that gets in touch with Hester. But you know, we never really know. It's just, so to really kind of get more of the adventures that Fever goes on. And so I guess like part of it is that she leaves the guild. Well, I guess at the end of the book she doesn't go back to the Guild of Engineers, and that right now like London is getting ready, or is getting built to be mobile, but the engine's not running, but everything's getting like, the engine's getting wheels, and it's just she's actually really clutch in a lot of different situations because she has the brains of an engineer, because that's what she's been brought up to do. So kind of good for her, right? So yeah, I guess that's kind of it, you know, another audiobook down. I do plan to read or listen to the other ones, which are Above Air and Scavenger's Moon. So yeah, But for right now, favorite Crumb, it is. Well done. And it was actually read by Reeve himself, so that was really nice. So yeah, give it a thumbs up. Hope everybody's doing alright, and we'll catch you on the next Dippit. Bye! Hello, 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 and welcome to this reading Dippit and end of this week's vlog. Woohoo! Alright, so I have no real updates for you other than I've started to read Alchemist, but that's kind of it. And that, you know, I guess here. I don't think I showed you, but I got a book haul, but bam. Picked up these 2 books on Friday, so this is what I'm currently reading. Yeah. Alright, and yeah, so I'm excited about that. And of course I got the hardcover books of the Inheritance Schemes, so I plan to get the rest of those, I think on Prime Days, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, not too much, just a lot of reading ahead of me, and I'm happy to do so. Yay! I really haven't done a lot. I just watched the last season of Euphoria, which I thought was amazing. But yeah, give it a double thumbs up. Hopefully everybody's doing alright, and we'll catch you on the next vlog. Bye!